come later, but thank you. Welcome. I'm Mark Robbins. I'm the president of the Taxpayers Association, and a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for coming to hear from our Lieutenant Governor, and thank you, Lieutenant Governor Heck, for making the trip up to Point Roberts. Meeting with us this evening. We're a community of just about 1,200 or so inhabitants, so hosting a high-level government official is a pretty special event, pretty rare occurrence. And welcome also to Senator Sharon Shoemake and Representative also, the Lieutenant Governor's Chief of Staff, Dallas Roberts, and Director of Policy, James Rolfe, is here. So, in a few minutes, I'm going to ask Representative Timmons to come up and just introduce himself briefly, and then in turn ask Senator Shoemake to formally introduce the Lieutenant Governor. But first I want to give a little background to this annual general meeting of the Point Roberts Taxpayers Association. Last year, Senator Shoemake informed me of the Lieutenant Governor's interest in visiting Point Roberts, which he had never done until today. In respect of all the national attention we got during COVID, and that was way before all the national attention that we got because of the current trade war and issues over sovereignty and so forth. She suggested that perhaps PRTA could invite the Lieutenant Governor to our next AGM, so here we are. And again, thank you for coming. Little did we know at the time of our invitation how relations between the U.S. and Canada would evolve and tensions would replace traditional partnership after January 20th, threatening the economic life of Point Roberts far more than COVID. The fact that by law, Washington's Lieutenant Governor chairs the Legislative Committee on Economic Development and International Relations made Lieutenant Governor Heck's appearance here more than just an honor, but also a most timely and relevant voice for promoting state-provincial cooperation, despite any tensions at the national level. Because of our guest speaker's stature, we chose to divide our meeting tonight to hold this part here in the community center where we could more appropriately accommodate the expected turnout, and it's great, thank you. And however, we do have some organizational business to conduct, and I invite anyone who's interested in the association to resume meeting with us around 7 p.m. tonight down at the Reef. If you joined or renewed your membership tonight, thank you for your support. If you chose not to do so, you're still most welcome. A little known fact is that Senator Shoemake is a Point Roberts property owner and taxpayer, and is such a member. I hope you renewed your membership tonight. She delivered the keynote address to our 2023 AGM, at which time I had an opportunity to describe to her our decade-long effort to change one small part of the Porter Area Transportation Benefit District law. And she successfully took up our issue on a bipartisan basis to give us added flexibility in how our gas tax revenue can be spent. We very much appreciate the Senator's support for Point Roberts and her consistent responsiveness to folks at Point Roberts. So with that, let me invite Representative Timmons to come up to say a few words.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a real honor to be here. My name is Joe Timmons. I'm the state representative of the 42nd Legislative District, and I get to work with Sharon as our representative in the Senate, or senator from the Senate, in the Senate, I should say. And I've been serving in this role since 2022, and it's a real honor to be your state representative. Please reach out to my office anytime. And I'm just so thrilled that the Lieutenant Governor is here. Point Roberts has its challenges, and we're working as hard as we can at the state level to try to address some of that. But it is one of the most remarkably resilient and beautiful places that this state and this country has to offer. So it's a real honor to be your state representative. But I want to introduce Senator Shoemake. Senator Shoemake has been serving in the legislature since 2018, first in the House and now in the Senate. And she has, as was described earlier, been a real champion of Point Roberts in the state legislature. So let's give her a warm welcome.
So much. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces and new faces and faces that I know I've seen before but can't remember the name. I gotta give a little bit of a shout out to Joe first. Also, when we were worried during the pandemic that Point Roberts would lose the grocery store, Joe Timmons was working for the governor's office and he was instrumental in figuring out ways that we could use some of the pots of money to make sure that we gave the marketplace just enough money to feel bad about closing. And so that was, I think, an appropriate use of taxpayer money, and we couldn't have done it without Joe in his position. So I think it's really great. Having him in the state legislature. One of the best things about my job, I'd say there's two really, really special, wonderful things. One of them is getting to know all the little communities that I represent. I've been living in Bellingham for a while. I didn't really know the rest of Whatcom County when I took the wild leap of running for office. And it's been an absolute honor to get to know the various neighborhoods, to get to know parts of Lummi Island, the best places to watch bald eagles, and hear the stories of all the different communities. I love hearing about how in Point Roberts you get woken up by bald eagles on your roof. That's how I sell this community to people. Point Roberts has definitely been one of those. It feels like a small town. Sometimes it feels like an island where you don't have to get on a ferry. You can go through the Canada route instead, which is a lot easier. And I know people don't always agree on things, but that is what a small town is. And so it's been an absolute honor to represent this community, get to know people, see how you guys, mowed each other's lawns during COVID and took care of one another. It was really heartwarming. The other great thing about my job is I get to meet people who feel similarly about their community. So some of the people that I work with are some of the most kind and compassionate people that I have met in my life. I would say that they feel a lot like if you were to take any room, random selection of people, you could see a lot of those personalities in the legislature, whether it's someone who's passionate about being a firefighter or passionate about video games. All of those different personalities and passions are there, with the one exception that they can all stand up and give a raucous speech. It's the coolest thing. And one of those people that has been an absolute honor and that I have frankly studied and tried to learn from has been Lieutenant Governor Denny. He has been a champion for deepening our relationships with Canada and international development. He has been a champion for housing policy in the legislature. He has the hard job of holding the gavel during our long Senate floor debates. And I don't know how he pays attention because I have a hard time. And so I really thank him for that. But I also really thank him for, when I talk about Point Roberts all the time, Denny has been listening. And I think having a lieutenant governor is a really big deal. Just coming up to Point Roberts, it's really wonderful to see the civic engagement and have this attention. And I just want to thank you, Lieutenant Governor Hack, for being my friend, for being one of my mentors, and for caring about Whatcom County and the communities, even in the northwest corner. So thank you so much. And Danny, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you, Sharon. Who said I paid attention all the time when I presided? That was very kind of you. I'm a little emotional, and I think you'll understand why by the time I'm done with my remarks. I want you to know how pleased and honored I am to be here. Now, the truth is, everywhere I go, I say, then again, I'm really honored to be invited anywhere as Lieutenant Governor. But I am genuinely gratified and honored to be here. It's a trip I have never made, but that I have wanted to make for a very long period of time. And I got to tell you, my thanks to Mark and Barbara for the considerable tour of the entirety of Point Roberts. Did we miss a road? And visiting with some of you earlier this afternoon, you know, do you not, that the sense of community here is unlike just about anything you can find anywhere else. and it is inspiring. I also wanted to come here because of, as Sharon refers to, of my work in relations with Canada. And before I get into that, I do want to say, as anybody can tell by talking to me or looking at me, I'm in my fourth quarter or final chapter of public service. And that spans now 52 years. I began working for the State House of Representatives. My state service has been intermittent. I was actually elected to the State House of Representatives in 1976. I was 8. But the point is, I have 52 years of intermittent service in the state legislature or state government. And I've seen a lot of members of the legislature come and go. And almost all of them are there to do as well as they can by their communities that send them there. And some are not really that good at it, some are great at it, some are really bad at it, some are just average like any large group of people. But these two, Joe, where'd you go? Senator Shoemake and Representative Timmons truly are as good as they get. It frankly is what we all hope for in the people that we entrust with these responsibilities. So, as Sharon referred to, we do a lot of work with Canada. And that comes from a pretty deep sense of my sense of connection to Canada, to our country. And I'm going to be pretty blunt here. I don't expect all of you to agree with me, and later some people will ask questions or make comments that you probably don't expect me to agree with. I want you to know I'm okay on that. It's a hallmark of democracy that we can disagree. And it's okay. We just need to do it respectfully. But I'm going to be blunt. I'm heartbroken at what's happened to our relationship. I am literally heartbroken. And the reason is that Canada is not just our largest trading partner for the nation intermittently and for Washington State in particular. They're not just our longest, best ally. The sons and daughters of Canadians have been dying in trenches and alongside American service members for as long as any of us can remember, in every major conflict and minor. But they're not just allies and they're not just trading partners. They are our friends, and they are our friends because we share values. And it is very difficult to hear some of the things being said about our oldest and best friends and allies and trading partners. So even before all of that began, primarily through my statutory chairmanship of the Legislative Committee on Economic Development and International Relations, say that 6 times real fast, we took the approach that, unfortunately, for those of you who are U.S. citizens and Washington residents, I will tell you truth to power, we've taken the Canadians for granted. We've taken that friendship and that alliance for granted for a long time. That 5,525-mile longest international border with the longest period of peace of any two nations on the face of this planet. We've taken them for granted, and we took the approach that we need to forge greater awareness and even deeper connection. And so years ago, we began working with the British Columbia Legislative Assembly. A couple of years ago, we were able, with Senator Shoemake's help, Representative Timmons' help, to pass a bill that established for the first time ever an inter-parliamentary exchange so that members of the Washington legislature could actually regularly sit down with members of the British Columbia legislature to share information and insights about the challenges that they were both confronting, but also to share best practices, because from my point of view, we have so much to learn from one another. And in fact, 2 months ago, I was in Victoria meeting with them, their speaker, my counterpart, and trying to forge the outlines of the charter of this new exchange, because they did endorse it, and our legislature passed it, and the governor signed it, and we agreed in principle. And any day now, we hope, we're going to have the final language on that to embark on this new phase of our relationship, of a deeper, stronger connection, so that we can be made more aware of what we need to, respectively. And one of the issues that we will take to the table in that regard, of course, is the unique problems and challenges that Point Roberts confronts. And I want you to know that Sharon and Joe are at the head of the line, sharing that information and advocating on behalf of you at every turn. There is not a conversation that involves Canada writ large or British Columbia wherein the challenges of Point Roberts and how they are affected by the border do not come up. We hear you, we see you, and we care about what these things have meant to you. And hopefully we can come up with some ideas and help along the lines that Sharon's already made so much progress on. I'm wearing this tie and I'm completely overdressed because on the way up here I stopped at the Blue Canoe restaurant. Nod your head if you know the Blue Canoe restaurant in Richmond. You should. And had lunch with the outgoing Consul General, American Consul General of British Columbia, James DeHart. Great guy, graduated from Gonzaga University, who is retiring tomorrow. I thought it was amazing that he'd be so kind as to give us a lunch hour. I wanted to have the conversation with him about just U.S.-Canadian relations in general and what we may or may not be able to do. And of course I said, we got to talk about Point Roberts. He's been here, you all know that he's been here. He said, I don't know if this idea works, but he had an idea. And I don't know if this idea will work either. But what I know is this kind of creative thinking and fertile thinking is exactly the kinds of effort that needs to be brought to bear on what you all confront. He said, you know, FIFA's World Cup's coming up next year. He said, what if Point Roberts were a fan zone? An officially designated area for viewing, that you have to meet certain criteria. I don't know how far out of the station that train is with the planning committee. I don't think they're all the way out, but it, A, would bring attention to Point Roberts, I think in a way that most people would like, and B, maybe some resources to accommodate that. C, it might lead to efforts that thin the border, which you all, I think, have suffered from the thickening up. And so we're going to go back and we're going to take a look at that. But again, it's just an idea. The point is, there may very well be a lot of other ideas that we can go to work on. And we will. You will be top of mind. So with that, I again want to thank Mark and Barbara for the incredible trip through Point Roberts. Every single part of Point Roberts.
We're not that big.
It took over an hour. Every minute was delightful. Look, I am thrilled to be here. I genuinely am. I hope I am after I'm done fielding your questions as well. But I want you to know, for as excited as I was to come, at least as of right now, it's all met and exceeded my expectations. So thank you very much for that.
Questions, or do you want me to?
Why didn't we work this out ahead of time? Why don't you?
Okay.
I would ask, that if you don't mind, if you don't want it, I'm cool. But I always feel like, you know who I am, so maybe you could at least share your first name with me, if you're comfortable. If you're not, I'm not going to answer your question. I'm just kidding.
Let me just say something. In the interest of time and fairness, I'd like to ask people just to ask single questions or comments and limit maybe to like a minute. And we have a secretary who's kind of a strict timekeeper. So we're
The
going to
time
try.
equivalent of Miss Moneypenny.
Yeah, so she'll remind you, but please, of course, keep it civil and keep your questions brief, and I'll start with the first hand that I saw.
Thank you so much for being here, Lieutenant Governor. I'm Stephen Sparrow. I'm 2 years in Point Roberts, and I come from 25 years supporting retail technology, and I was thrilled to see that you're on the economic development, that you ran small businesses. My concern is something we call in the business lifetime value of a customer, LTV. That means that how important is it for the international marketplace or the restaurants to keep the customer coming back versus trying to find a new customer? And I'm concerned for Blaine, for Ferndale, for Linden, for Bellingham, for all of the border communities that Canadians are no longer coming to for various reasons. You mentioned, you know, the cost, the exchange rate, the cost of goods, and I appreciate the fan zone. I'd like to encourage you, and I'd like to ask you, what else is the state of Washington doing to support the tourism and convincing Canadians that they should keep on doing what they're doing? If you go to Costco in Bellingham, there's no one at the gas stations from Canada. You can bowl in the alleys of Costco. Here it's empty on many occasions too. So my overall question is, what are you doing? What else can you do to encourage Canadians to continue their journeys to the United States, and specifically Point Roberts? Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. So, first of all, let me say that we have a State Department of Commerce that does have tourism promotion funds and division. And specifically what they're doing, I frankly couldn't tell you. I do want you all to know that there are 9 statewide elected officials, and the Lieutenant Governor is the lowest paid, and deservedly so. People often have the impression that I'm the Deputy Governor, and I'm not. I don't have any executive branch responsibility, which is my point, Stephen. I don't have any day-to-day responsibility whatsoever on the executive branch side, so I'm not always 100% current on it. But here's what I know. I know that Governor Newsom in California spent a bunch of money to re-attract Canadian tourists, and it didn't work because they're really pissed off. Pardon my language. And so I think the answer to your question isn't just about, or necessarily even about, some programmatic response. I think this is about what it is that elected officials here and there have to do to stand up for this relationship. I will tell you that when we went to Victoria to do the charter with our counterparts, it was with people with whom I had worked for quite some time through various other entities. I know several members of the British Columbia Legislative Assembly and considered them not just professional acquaintances, but actually friends. But I was nervous. I was apprehensive about how are they going to receive us. First time I'd been back there since somebody thought it was a good idea to say out loud that we were going to make Canada the 51st state, which I find offensive. And I didn't know how we'd be received. they could not have embraced us more warmly. And I think part of the reason for that is we're trying really, really, really hard to communicate even more often that we treasure this relationship. That's what we need to keep doing across the board. This woman wrote a resolution unanimously adopted by the Washington State Senate, basically saying, Canada, we love you. And it went into detail as to why we love you. And it didn't surprise me that Senator Shoemake could either A, write a resolution, she's a university professor, or B, get it passed unanimously. But here's what surprised me. That debate, resolutions are basically missives. And the discussion doesn't usually last very long. That discussion went on and on. And member after member after member popped up to speak. Liberals, conservatives, Democrats, and Republicans to express their support. They know it in Canada. They know it in British Columbia. It was a part of why I think we were so well received in May. We continue to make those efforts. That's what has to happen, even within the context of some of this toxic national rhetoric about the relationship. I think the damage that has been done is not going to be fixed overnight. But here's what I also believe. I believe it in my heart, and it may be because I feel it. Americans and Canadians generally treasure one another. That's the foundation, and the foundation will hold us in good stead in the long term.
Is it Shauna? Shauna, yeah.
Hi, Shauna Sylvester, resident here and a Canadian, and so thank you for all the things that you're saying about our legislature. Really appreciate that. First, I want to say a big thank you to the Department of Commerce staff who have been extremely supportive of us in Point Roberts and was very supportive, as Senator Shoemake was, around our work around solar. The question I have is, with the big bill that we've just seen, the budget bill come down, and the eradication of so much of the Inflation Reduction Act, what role will the state play in ensuring the work that we were doing on climate action, the work that we've been doing on solar is going to continue?
Thank you, Shauna. You know, when you're a politician and you give a lot of speeches and you talk in front of a lot of people, you tend to gravitate toward the people who smile and nod their head while you're talking because you're feeling affirmed. Shauna was affirming me for the whole first part. Thank you. State government will do what it can, but our fiscal house is pretty precarious. So when we left the legislative session, when they left the legislative session, all I did is bang the gavel to adjournment. They forecast on April 23rd, 24th, 5th, whatever the last day of session was, late April. They forecast that at the end of the 2-year period, which began July 1st, and for which we budget on a 2-year basis, there would be $250 million approximately left in the bank. That's the reserve. That's out of tens and tens of billions of dollars budget, so 250 million sounds like a lot of money, but it's not in the context of how big the budget is. But that number, that is a forecasted number, it's updated by a strictly bipartisan committee every quarter. And when it was updated in June, that 250 came down to 80 million. That's basically operating on fumes. And the legislature already struggled mightily with the budget challenge they had. Depending on how you count it, an approximately $16 billion hole over 4 years. And they made some cuts. People are reading about some of the pain of those cuts. And they raised some taxes. They raised $9 billion in taxes. Which is all to say that, especially even before the real effects of the tariffs find their way into the economy, which they truly haven't yet, they haven't manifested yet, and whatever other pressures may be on the economy as a consequence. The fiscal situation is such that I always feel duty-bound to tell people, if what you're looking for is a bunch of new money, we're not in a period of time where that is likely. Now, there are always exceptions to that, and forecasts are just that, they're just forecasts. I mean, they could be wrong. I've been at this a while. I don't think so. I don't think so. So I think we're in a period of time where those kinds of resources are going to be harder to come by. I think I'll leave now.
Hi there. I would like to speak to those economic issues and the relationship with Canada issues, and also the thinning of the border. I would ask the representatives that are here to consider the possibility of Point Roberts becoming an international park. And I would love to claim responsibility for this idea, but it's not my idea. The International Joint Commission on Boundary Waters did a study I believe it was the same year that you were first elected, to make Point Roberts the center of an international park that included the San Juan Islands and the Gulf Islands. It actually made several different versions of that, one of which was Point Roberts own. So there are 7 international parks along the border with Canada. It's one of those places where the border gets thinner. And in some of those places, you don't even have to clear immigration to cross into the park. For example, in Peace Arch Park, just across Boundary Bay. Now, if Point Roberts were an international park, we could use Canadian labor to work in our businesses, because not having labor is a huge problem here. And I know from the work that we did in the Taxpayers Association many years ago that Point Roberts was generating about $10 million a year in taxes for the state in gas and liquor taxes from Canadians crossing the border. So I know this is a possibility there's an economic possibility there. And in terms of making this international park, there's lots of reasons to do that. There's the archaeological resources, 5 times more than any other place in the state. There's this relationship between Canada and the US. There's the economic needs, just the environmental needs in general, and the environmental importance of this place. It's an international bird area, important bird area. I know there's experts in this room that speak on those things better than me. So would you folks consider the possibility of going back to your jobs and putting forward the idea to our national government that Point Roberts could become an international park? He got the message.
Are you timing me too? So, thank you.
No, you can't do that.
Thank you, Michael. You mentioned that obviously to me earlier. It's an intriguing idea. Of course, my counsel, for what it's worth, and it's worth what you're paying for it, which is nothing. My counsel is that an idea like that, which is intriguing, really more so than most ideas, has to be ground up. And what I mean by that is, it's not as important what I think about it, or what Senator Shoemake thinks about it, or Representative Timmons thinks about it. It's what do you think about it? Because there's no way that idea, or any kind of an idea of that nature or magnitude, moves forward unless it's what you want. So my counsel is, you all have to decide if that's what you want for your community before it could be seriously considered. Now, obviously, it's a federal thing, and so you're going to have to be working the Congressman Larson, Senators Campbell, and Murray. I think that's a very intriguing idea.
This gentleman right in front of Mike.
Mine is along the same line, that tradesmen used to come in.
Sorry, we can't hear you.
And I have to be another Steve. That tradesmen used to come in.
Mark told me that only one Steve would be allowed.
Oh, thanks. When you come back. Yeah, so tradesmen would come in and it was just, and products came in and out more easily, and I know that's, like you say, it's less liquid, but if it can be a special zone for all the reasons that have been discussed, that would help. That would help get us in and help the people that are here.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. You know, it's interesting, a couple of people have mentioned the trades issue with me. You know, all communities are having availability of tradespeople issues. I can't imagine how much more difficult it is here because of the added challenges that you have on top of the already shortage. I mean, I'm not aware of any community in America where there's a surplus of plumbers or electricians, frankly, but then to layer on it, border issues.
Lucy?
Okay.
Hi, Lucy.
Hi, Denny. Okay,
We're on a first name basis.
Well, he's been here for 10 minutes already. You mentioned that we're an outstanding community, very close and almost rare. And I'm wondering if you have an inkling of how that has come about. So my question is for you. How many of you are dual citizens or have family who are dual citizens? Raise your hand. So if you think we're amazing and nice, a lot of us are Canadians, dual citizens, and we work together. We're the shining example of what everything should be.
Pretty sure that doesn't require a response, except to agree.
Okay, John, and then I promise to come to this side of the room.
Thank you, Denny. John.
Stand up, John. Please.
I moved down here in 1992, the dual citizen. I work in Canada and the US, back and forth, across the border, thousands of times. The border is not really a problem now. It's pretty easy to get across. What I would suggest, though, if you want to spend some money, get a subsidized ferry from the mainland to come into the marina to promote transit, to promote tourism. That's, I think, what you need, because this community is circling the drain and has been long before Trump put his tariffs in. So I would like you to seriously consider that. I think Michael's idea is great, but you really have to have people coming here in a different way than driving through the mainland, through the border.
Thank you. Did you open by saying you're a veteran?
Yes?
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
I respect your service and appreciate it very much. I don't know if you've been following the Washington State news, but our ferry system isn't in great shape. This is me engaging in understatement. Governor Ferguson has just taken the very unusual step to let contracts to out-of-state builders of ferries, despite the fact that in-state builders have a preference in statute, but it's limited. And the out-of-state ferry manufacturer beat it out even with the added factor. We're going to be decades, I'm just telling you the truth, we're going to be decades getting our ferry service back to where it needs to be.
Canadians are buying from China, as you know.
We're now buying them from Florida.
Adele, did you have your hand up?
So thank you, Sharon and Joe and Denny for coming. Those two have known how unique we are for a very long time, and now you're becoming familiar with that. When a tree falls in Washington State, in my opinion, it's still a tragedy, but it's not a huge tragedy. When a tree falls, or 5 acres of trees are allowed to be clear cut in Point Roberts, It is a tragedy. Yet we are subject to the same, this little 5 square miles, subject to exactly the same rules and regulations as Washington State in terms of forestry. So my request is that you take the perspective of 5 square miles needs to be addressed very differently in terms of forestry, in terms of shoreline, in terms of all of the natural ecology and environment, needs to be addressed very, very differently than Washington State as a whole.
Now, why isn't that a zoning issue with the county?
Well, as far as forestry is concerned, as far as those 5 square those permits are let by the Department of Forestry. And
Natural resources.
Yeah, natural resources, sorry. So.
Yeah, but they're cut in order to build, right?
Sorry?
I understood you to say, I may have misunderstood, that the trees are being cut so somebody can build something there. Oh, they're just being logged for.
Okay.
I get it.
Some properties
Okay.
are being logged.
Okay.
And again, 5 acres out of 5 square miles, that's a huge, that's a lot of trees.
Have you had Commissioner up the Grove here yet?
No, not to my knowledge. Okay, so that's a good start, Mark. Let's talk about that.
Our understanding is that the state logging permitting completely preempts county and local, so that zoning or land use or character plan restrictions that will normally apply for residential development do not apply if you get a logging permit. The only thing restriction is that the property owner can't build on it for 3 years.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hi, it's Louise Cassidy, 46-year resident here in Point Roberts.
46?
2 minutes. Quite a few years ago, we talked, a group of us talked with Sharon about our local taxation code. We're lumped in with Whatcom County unincorporated as our taxation code. And
You are unincorporated Whatcom County, right?
right. But what comes with that is that there is no way the Department of Revenue can identify what income Point Roberts brings in. They can't tell us the taxes, they can't tell us the sales tax, because we're lumped in with all of unincorporated Whatcom County. We've tried so hard with the DOR to get Point Roberts to have its own location tax code, because the destination tax on parcels, on shipping, we don't get to see that, we don't know it. Whereas Blaine sees theirs, and they know exactly how much money they're getting from their parcels that get shipped into Blaine. There's no way that Point Roberts can get that information. They tried to tell us that because of postal codes, they can't do it. Well, we have one postal code for all of Point Roberts. They could easily, and nobody else shares our postal code.
What would be the benefit to Point Roberts?
Economic development studies. Nobody can do any study on us for economics because there's no way to identify how much income we're bringing. Sharon's been trying and DOR just says it go away. And so she really needs some help.
They say it's hard. They say if we do this for you, everyone else is going to want it.
You have to be a city.
Yeah, I get all sorts of
You talked to Drew?
we were talking to someone on here, but that's a good idea. I can talk to Drew.
I'm guessing that if Senator Shoemake called the director of the Department of Revenue, Drew Shirk, to her office, he would come.
We'll get Louise to come too.
And tell him I'll be there.
Can I just add to answer the question of what would be the benefit? Our thinking is that if we have that kind of information, we could be better prepared to go to county council, Whatcom County Council, and ask them to earmark some appropriate part of that in a fund for infrastructure or other projects in Point Roberts.
Yeah.
Okay, in the back.
Everybody talks about the border as a problem, but that's actually why I moved here. It keeps Point Roberts safe, that group small. The real problem is a law that went into effect in 1967 that allowed anyone in the world to buy property in Washington State. It was lobbied for by the real estate agents who wanted to find more buyers. The second law was in 1994 that increased the number of inhabitants that could register for a town from 300 to 1,500. And our population since 2010 went from 1,300 to 1,100. So the reason that we suffer is because we have no control over those taxes. If we were a city, then we could control those taxes. We produce so much tax revenue for the county, and they take it all for themselves. They won't fix our roads, they won't correct our drainage problems, they won't approve our permits in a timely manner, they don't take care of us in the winter when our roads are filled with tree limbs and snow. The problem is not the border. The problem is that we're oppressed by a county, 2 nations, and 2 states. So what are you guys going to do to help us get out of that? That's what I want to know.
So, do you think that if there were a ballot proposition before the people of Point Roberts to incorporate and become a city, that it would pass?
Yeah, I hope so.
It would go into discussion.
I'm going to try and ask the question diplomatically.
Here's what I think. I think a lot of the people who are in control of the governments here get there without a legitimate election. I don't think we actually know who would want to represent this town. The people are appointed by the county in order to keep us quiet. They don't want to hear from us anymore. We want to hear from each other, and we want to make decisions about what happens in Point Roberts from the people in Point Roberts. And we don't have that opportunity. It's a right. The United Nations says everyone should have the right to self-determination, and we don't have that. We deserve that in this town. And it's been taken from us by the 1967 law that real estate agents wanted to make a lot more money, foreign interests. But 2/3 of our homes sit empty right now. Families can't afford to live here. And they're kicked out of their homes by landlords that live in another country and don't care about our tenancy laws. They don't care about our community. They just hate our president.
So, thank you. I want to ask the question again as neutrally and diplomatically as I can, because actually in my short afternoon here in Point Roberts, I've heard people on both sides of that issue. But I don't want to ask people to self-identify in a way that might be polarizing. So let me ask the question this way to get a better sense, if I may, please. I'm going to ask you to raise your hand if you think it's uncertain how people would vote on a proposition to incorporate. If you think it's uncertain.
Ask how many of them are Canadians that can't vote.
And sorry, just a clarifying question. Do we know what it would take to become a city? I'm uncertain because I don't know whether that means I'm paying more taxes, whether I have to do X, Y, and Z to become a city. I don't know that information. I am an American. I don't know that information, so I would not vote to become a city without knowing more details about what it takes.
Generally speaking, people who live in cities pay somewhat higher taxes than
That's not true. Sumas pays less than we do. All the cities I looked at in Whatcom County pay less than we pay here now. Because we have to pay for our own fire, our library we pay for with the county. We have to pay for our own fire department. We pay for a lot of stuff here through commissions, the water department, we have PUD, so we actually have a lot more line items than anyone else.
Sorry, if I could speak to that.
No, you've already had.
Well, no, I
You just asked if
I just want to answer one thing. The reason that you can't ask that question is because we've never addressed it, because it's never been in sight. So if we had an opportunity to say, yeah, I think we can make this happen for you, then we could sit down and have a discussion and work out our differences and work out our stuff. But without having that as an option, then we don't even discuss it, really.
I am not expert enough at how politics plays out in the legislature on municipal issues, to have a sense of where the support or opposition to that would come. It'd probably be better for an after-event conversation with Senator Shoemaker, Representative Timmons, on the difficulty or ease with which the law could be changed to enable or to allow for an incorporation vote for a lower population.
My understanding, I don't know if it's true, that we're a LAMIRD, L-A-M-I-R-D, and that LAMIRDs don't require 1,500 population to incorporate.
I don't know what a LAMR is.
Limited
Sorry,
area of
explain
more
it, knows
intense
better.
residential development.
Against-
Limited area of more intense residential development,
Okay.
LAMIRD.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I don't know.
if so, then you begin the conversation without changing any law.
You don't need my help to have a conversation.
Can Sharon find out if a LAMIRD can incorporate with less than 1,500 people?
Okay, so my name's Elizabeth Mason.
Remember the part where I said I was in my final chapter? Part of that involves not being able to stand on my feet for an hour anymore. So I beg your indulgence and I apologize, but I need to sit down.
We're sitting. We're sitting.
I noticed.
Okay. My name's Elizabeth Mason, and I'm advocating for a tunnel from Point Roberts to Blaine as an alternative measure of getting here. Forget the ferry, forget a bridge. We need to be connected to the mainland. If we didn't learn anything through COVID, we're learning now. We have a dwindling population. In order for this place to survive, and I love it, we need new bodies. If we had a tunnel, maybe we could have a school, a senior center, a hospital, endless possibilities. Now, a lot of people have spoken to me and said, excuse me, you're the only one who wants to be connected to the mainland. We all don't want it. So I said, okay, why? And this was the reason. We don't want homeless people coming to the point. We don't want drug addicts coming to the point. It was a safety issue. Well, we are a community, and we can have a community plan, and we can get around that. We need access to the mainland. And I think if we worked with you and the Department of Highways, we could have the Highway Department create a job work project and connect us. And that would bring trade people in, younger families. Not everybody wants to come to Point Roberts. It's not everybody's cup of tea. It is ours. I love being here. It wouldn't change that much. We don't have that much land. But we need to be connected. Sorry? Oh, and that's all I have to say. Thank you both for coming. Appreciate you being up.
Elizabeth, the tunnel would run from
Point Roberts to Blaine. Underground and the water goes. And the Department of Highways.
Department of Transportation.
Yeah, make work project. Thank you.
Hardly know how to respond to that.
Dave, did you want to comment or was it just?
Our transportation budget is,
Tunnels and more.
you're talking about a mega project. You're talking about billions. Billions.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, I met you earlier. I liked you immediately. I am in my final chapter. It is not going to happen.
Very good at basics.
I get to ask a second question, thank you. I don't think it would be an official Point Roberts meeting if we didn't bring up Wi-Fi and connectivity issues. I sat through a Zoom meeting where two competing entities, and I'll get it wrong if I try to say them exactly, it was Whitby and Mr. Cohen, and it was quite interesting to hear the controversy, whatever it was interesting. It seems to me that there's enough smart people in Whatcom County, in the government, to figure out how to say, okay, and I'm a simple person, I'm just 25 years in technology, put up 5 towers and give everyone internet, and all of a sudden, all people are coming out saying, I have no Wi-Fi, I have no connection, how can I come here and be away from something? They would have it. But we have issues with digging because of what's buried in the ground. We have issues with connecting things along telephone poles. Is there any way that the senator and the congressman can get together and say, let's just figure out a solution and put it in and see if it works, as opposed to...
Did you just promote Joe Tibbins to Congress?
$10 is $10.
He may be ready someday, but...
I know, but there's
So,
$3 million that they're now trying to solve.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
I was stunned when riding around with Mark and Barbara, and they updated me on the current state of high-speed access. This I did not know, and it was a bit stunning to me, frankly. It's a lot cheaper than a tunnel. There's got to be a way to skin this cat. I mean, there was a whole bunch of money in the pipeline under the infrastructure bill. Some of it's being pulled back. I don't know how much. I don't think all of it is. I frankly was a little disappointed that that money didn't make it to actual turning over of dirt quicker once it was appropriated. But there's got to be a way to do this, to provide you with what almost the entire rest of the world does. We still have the rest of the country, the rest of the state. We still have a lot of rural areas, and you would be considered rural, obviously, that don't have it. But, you know, if I were you, I'd be reaching out to the chair of the Senate Energy, Technology, and Environment Committee, because she's one of the smartest, most knowledgeable people imaginable on this subject matter. And that's really the first time I've thrown Sharon under the bus. I've been here, but I mean, you don't have a better person, frankly, to work this through and figure out how to skin the cat, whether it's satellite or on poles or you know, microwave or whatever. Like, you deserve high-speed internet access, and it would be a wonderful, wonderful boon for your economy. It just would. And it's the way the world works now. I mean, it's just look. We entered the digital age a couple of decades ago. We're not going back. We're just not. So I think there's a way to skin that cat, Stephen. I don't know what it is, but I think there's a way.
My name's Pat. Just to help you in your decision making on this tunnel idea, I did a story earlier today because we heard the first idea we heard was a bridge or a ferry, and a bridge would cost $3.8 to $5.5 billion. A ferry would be 60 to 100 million. Tunnels cost 800 million to 1.5 billion per mile, and we're 13 miles away from the lane, so that gives us an idea how much it's so it's our choice.
Pat, in appreciation of your doing that research, I want you to know that the flashlight on your iPhone is on. Thank you, Pat. You know, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna say, I actually don't think the biggest, and certainly not the only problem with meeting some of our needs, like high-speed internet, or I would say like more housing, or I would say like more clean energy generation, or I would say improved energy transmission, because actually once you generate the energy, you got to get the electron from point A to point B. I don't think it's just lack of money. I think we've lost the capacity to build things in this country, largely. And I think that it will be a heavy, heavy blanket on the next generation if we cannot provide an adequate supply of housing and an adequate supply of energy, to name it two examples of where a whole bunch of laws that we passed for very good reasons, that in and of themselves really were looking forward to what is it that we were going to bequeath to the next generation and protect them and bless those who did that. I mean, I'm old enough to, well, looking at this room, there's lots of you in this room to remember in 1969 when the Cuyahoga River spontaneously caught fire because of the crap in it. I'm old enough to remember the Santa Barbara oil slick that was 800 square miles because we didn't have enough to protect ourselves against that kind of incredible damage. But what's happened in the ensuing 50 years is those things are being used to prevent us to do the things that we also need to do. So it's not just the money, it's not just the $100 billion for the tunnel.
That's right, I did need to add though.
I'm going to have to buy her a cup of coffee after.
We've been trying to get a floating dock at Lighthouse Park now for years, ever since the last one was destroyed in 2 days or 3 days, whatever. That's $100,000 for something the last 35 years, and we've been unable to get that replaced. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I used to open remarks to groups by saying, all talk, you listen, whoever gets done first, raise your hand. I think by not raising your hand, you've all raised your hand that you're done listening. Evidently not. Pardon?
How did you like the airport?
We just drove by it. I did not fly here.
I lost my cat. I thought you'd come on the helicopter.
That's you, not me.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Do I get to say some concluding things?
I have a concluding remark, but you should go first.
No, well.
Thank you. Very, very much.
I do have a couple of closing remarks. First of all, of course, on behalf of the association, I'm sure entire community, thank you and others for coming out. I have two quick final items of business to close. The Lieutenant Governor mentioned Sharon's resolution. I'm glad you did, because I have a ceremonial copy here. And I'd like to invite the Lieutenant Governor and Senator up to autograph it for us, and then I'll give it to the Historical Society. I'm sorry you don't have a Sharpie. finally, we have a token souvenir for the Lieutenant Governor to take back to Olympia with him. Hopefully he will remember Point Roberts.